Hello, welcome to this edition of Iredell Statesville Schools EDtalks. Our guest today is Melissa Wike. Melissa is the Chief Financial Officer, CFO, of the Iredell Statesville Schools. So, Melissa, welcome to our program today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, I know that our viewers would like to know a little bit about you and your background. How long have you been working for the Iredell Statesville Schools?
Almost 7 years. It'll be 7 years in December.
And your training is as a certified public accountant?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, where'd you go to school?
UNC Charlotte.
Right. And then before you got into the school business, what was your background there?
I spent 8 years with Dixon Hughes, and they've merged and changed names numerous times since then, but a public accounting firm out of Charlotte.
Right. And now being the CFO of a large business, because the school system is a large business, you have established yourself very well across the state of North Carolina, have an outstanding reputation. Just recently, in August of this year, you were awarded an efficiency award by the state of North Carolina, the Department of Public Instruction, and you've always been very, very modest about those awards, but not every school district gets that, so congratulations to you and your staff for being recognized.
Yeah, it is my staff. They really are the ones who do all the work behind the scenes to make that happen. So.
Right. Now, at our last board meeting, we had our annual financial audit, and that audit came back very positive. There were no findings.
Right.
How many years in a row now has that been that we've had zero audit findings?
You know, it started before I even came here, so we're probably maybe 9 or 10 years now.
Right. And I know you cautioned me in talking about that on any given year you can have one blooper.
That's right.
And it can throw you off that, but we've got a 9-year history going of zero audit findings.
And that speaks well to all of the different departments because different federal programs are tested each year. So it could be child nutrition or Title I or exceptional children. So it goes to all those different departments, and they're doing what they need to do as well.
Well, I think it does send a clear message to our community that we take our stewardship of the tax dollars very, very seriously, and that we do try to spend that money wisely and on the purposes for which it was intended. So congratulations to you and all of the departments that support you in your work there.
Thank you.
You know, the John Locke Foundation, too, has looked at our school system and has rated the Iredell Statesville Schools as one of the more effective and efficient districts in the state of North Carolina. And to get an acknowledgement from an organization like that, that is a very conservative watchdog group of the taxpayers' money, is quite an award for the school system. So again, lots of good work going on, and I think the folks in our community can be very proud of the fact that their money is being spent wisely and on the purpose for which it was designed. School finance is very complicated. I wonder if you could take just a moment and explain, where does the school system get its money from? I know it's federal, it's state, and it's local, but talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, as we just know from this session with the General Assembly in Raleigh, the lion's share of our funds comes from the state government. So we have to wait every year and see what the state is going to allocate us and what changes they may make in the funding formulas with which they use to send the funds to each school system. So we have state money, about $107 million in state funds this year. And we have local funding, again, from government sources. The local county supplies local funds, mainly through county appropriations. They do local, and then they do capital outlay funds for the buildings maintenance. And then there are federal funds that we get from the federal government that flow through the Department of Public Instruction and then out to each of the different school systems. That's like your Title I, Title 6B, which is an EC program. Those are the two main ones that most people are familiar with. And then you have, your child nutrition generates their own funds for their program. They get some federal funds as well for the free and reduced meals. But basically for the education of the students, it's mainly state, local, federal. And then we have been fortunate enough here to get a lot of direct grants that we've applied for directly with the federal government and have received over the years.
Now, I know the state of North Carolina does keep a close eye on how each school system in the state is funded, and they rank those school systems based on how much total revenue they do bring in. Because of those direct grants that we have been successful in getting, it has improved our standing financially. But without those federal grants, Iredell Statesville Schools is really among the lowest funded districts in North Carolina.
Right, on a per pupil basis, if you exclude the federal grants that we've directly been awarded, we used to rank, there's 115 school systems in the state, or counties in the state, or it's 100 counties, 115 school systems. We usually ranked like 110 or below in per pupil funding, taking into account state, local, and federal funds.
Right. So our staff has been very aggressive in going out and writing these federal grants, and they have produced a lot of revenue for us as a district. I would say conservatively that over the last 6 or 7 years, would you think that that's approaching nearly $40 million in federal grants?
Probably so. Like I said, the impact grant alone is $20 million.
Right. Yeah, I know as a school district, I think we were one of 116, no, I'm sorry, we were one of 16 school systems in the nation to get the impact grant. The I-3 grant, I think we were one of 7. And to my knowledge, we are the only school system in the nation to win both major federal grants. So that's something that our entire community can be proud of.
Absolutely.
And I think it also is reassuring to the taxpayers that their federal tax dollars are coming back to their community rather than being shared in other communities across the nation. So we're very proud of that. And it has done a lot of good work in our community. Let's talk a little bit about our local budget. You did point out that we get really 2 budgets from the county commissioners. One of those we call current expense, and the other is our capital budget. What is the current expense budget used for?
It's really used to supplement the state budget. A lot of times I look at both the state and the local budget kind of as one big pie, because if the state reduces the amount of money they give you for teachers, the local budget will have to pick up more to pay for teachers. But the local budget pays for things that the state won't pay for as well, like our local supplement and really our maintenance department. You cannot use state funds to pay for your maintenance staff. So those are the 2, and then your utilities. The state budget can't be used for utilities either. So really, probably those are the 3 main things that the local budget must be able to do that the state budget can't. And then on top of that, it kind of supplements the state budget.
Can you tell the viewers a little bit about the local supplement? You're talking, of course, about a supplement to their state salary.
Right.
And most LEAs, most school systems in North Carolina have a local supplement. How does that work?
Well, right now, for all the certified staff, it's 6% of their salary, and we pay it twice a year. We pay it to the staff in November and then June, or maybe end of May, I'm not really sure, twice a year. And then for classified staff, it's 4%, 4.6% of their salary. And again, that's paid on the same schedule as the certified staff.
And because other districts are doing that, you're more or less in competition with those districts, because I know a big system like CMS, for example, their supplement to their employees is much, much larger than it is here.
Right, so everyone has to pay according to the state scale for their certified staff. So it's that local supplement that really makes a difference, and one potential recruitment tool to get qualified staff to your district.
Absolutely. Now, with the portion of the budget that we get from the county commissioners for capital expenditures, a lot of folks don't understand that, you know, the responsibility in North Carolina falls on the county commissioners to provide school buildings for the community. So the county commissioners build these buildings, they technically own those buildings, and they give us money each year for the upkeep of those buildings. What is that budget? And talk to us a little bit about what that money is spent on.
So the capital budget, I think this year from the county is about $5 million, and that's for big projects. Like it might be paving that needs to be done to expand a parking lot at a school, or maybe some awnings need to be replaced, or roof systems, or HVAC. You know, not your small repairs and maintenance, but larger projects. And then we also supplement those funds as well from the lottery funds from the state. Those are actually used for capital projects. The lottery funds are used for capital projects.
Now, a lot of folks in the community hear the lottery, and they have a misconception that when the lottery started many, many years ago, that the lottery was going to save the public schools and was going to take care of all of the problems and issues that public education in North Carolina had. That's just not the case. What is the amount of money that we receive annually from the lottery?
It varies, but it's about 1.4 million that we have available each year to draw down. We don't have to draw it down every year. You can build it up for large projects like this facility that we're in now at the CATS school. But it's about 1.4 million annually that we get.
Now that fluctuates. I know before the recession we were getting close to about $2.5 million a year from the lottery. And as you pointed out, it's now down to about 1.4. But that is controlled by the General Assembly. They can change that formula, keep some of that money in Raleigh before they distribute it to the local LEAs. So we don't have carte blanche with our capital money. It has to be spent on capital projects. And that simply means that when we get our lottery money, we have to spend it on buildings and grounds. You can't spend it on technology, is that correct?
No, sir. The lottery money cannot be spent for technology. That's something that would be a huge benefit to the schools if we could spend it on technology.
Okay, so buildings and grounds only. All right.
You can use it for debt service payments, but those are for like lighting projects, or maybe you have debt service for some grounds, big grounds projects that you've done over the years. I know Dr. Miller uses it for debt service. I think there's a water sewer line down at Woodland or something they have some debt service on. So.
Right. Talk to us a little bit, Melissa, if you will, about what you see the future looking like in North Carolina for public school funding. I know this particular summer was a tough summer. We did not get our budget until very late in the fall, and there was quite a debate that took place over our TA funding. Talk to us about that, and if you will, explain the difference between the pots of money that you get from the state. Some of those come to you as dollar allotments, and some of them are position allotments. Explain that for us.
Okay, so the state funds that come to us come in different pots or buckets. So we don't just get $107 million and we choose how we want to spend it at our discretion. You'll have an allotment for teachers, you'll have an allotment for central office, instructional support, on down the line. And some of those allotments are positions. So they allot us X number of positions for teachers. So no matter what that teacher costs, that teacher could cost you $1 or $60,000. You know, the money, they're going to cover the cost of X number of positions, no matter how many of those positions cost. And then there are the dollar allotments where maybe you get $6 million for your non-instructional support, which is office staff, custodian, stuff like that. And so you have to work within that dollar amount versus a position allotment. So you have to kind of manage. If you have a position allotment, you obviously want to put your highest paid positions in the position allotment, because like I said, they're going to pay for that position no matter if it costs $60,000 or $1. So that's the kind of the game that you play between state and local funds. You want to get your lowest paid people in the local funds and put the highest paid people in your state funds just to maximize the funds that are available to you. But like I said, over the years, ever since I've been here, it's been declining state revenue and uncertainty as to what our funding is going to be from year to year. I think historically you used to know you could count on X% increase in state funding, but now it's just the unknown every year. And that's what makes it difficult, particularly with human resources and trying to staff schools.
Right. Driver's education was a hot button issue this year too with the General Assembly. Of course, the state of North Carolina does provide funding for driver's education. That amount has come down over the last few years. Talk to us a little bit about driver's ed funding and the revenue stream that feeds driver's education.
Well, driver's ed is funded through the state. They have reduced their funding over the years and have allowed local school systems to charge students to participate in driver's ed. It used to be free for the public, for the students, but now you can charge up to $65. The funding used to come from, I think it was Department of Transportation, and now the funding no longer comes from the Department of Transportation. This year it is coming out of the education pot, but next year I think it's going to come from fines and forfeitures from the state. So it's kind of been juggled around from different pots at the state level as to who's going to fund driver's ed. You
know, a lot of people will be surprised to hear that child nutrition is what we call an enterprise fund, and they do not receive funding from the state of North Carolina. Tell us how the child nutrition program operates and is really a self-supporting type program.
Right, so every child that comes through the lunch line every day, they're either paying for their meal or the federal government is subsidizing the meal. Either they pay a portion if they're on reduced meals or it's free. And so the federal government will subsidize those students that are on free and reduced meals. So the child nutrition department has to be self-sustaining. They have to make enough money from their business to support their expenses. And their business is, providing meals to our students.
And that includes staffing as well. They pay their own way with their employees and whatnot. And indirect cost is money that we can charge back to the child nutrition program for actually operating in the building. Explain that process.
So you look at child nutrition almost as a business that you're allowing to operate inside your buildings. So we don't charge them directly for the maintenance of the portion of the building that they're using or the custodial staff that operates in those buildings. We don't charge them for the finance staff, processing their payroll or helping them with their accounts payable, or human resources, kind of helping them with their hiring process. So since we look at them as kind of an outside business that we kind of help support, we're able to charge them for some of those services that we provide to them, and that's called indirect cost. And the state sets the rate, and then the rate, it's a percentage. There are allowable expenses that the child nutrition department incurs, and we can charge them a % of those expenses as kind of a fee for operating in our buildings. Kind of offsets some of the costs that we incur for them being in our buildings.
Well, Melissa, thanks for being here today. You're very knowledgeable about school finance, and as we pointed out at the beginning of the program, you are an award-winning department. And so we're very, very proud of you and your staff and the work that you do for us. And the work that you do actually helps our teachers and our principals out there in the school provide a good quality education for our children. And you're working behind the scenes, but the work that you do is vitally important every single day, and we do appreciate you, and again, commend you and your staff for the quality work that you do.
All right, thank you very much.
Well, if you would like more information about our finance department or the budgets that we operate under, you can visit our website. There's lots of information that's available there. So you can visit our homepage and go to the finance department and find copies of all of our budgets and detailed information about how we spend the taxpayers' money. Thank you for watching.